Here are the top stories for today, July 16, 2019. The Philippines is not withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council despite its resolution to investigate human rights in the country. IP leaders ask for respect as militants protest their campaign against the abuses of the CPP-NPA. The Department of Health officially declares a dengue outbreak in Western Visayas. And the Department of Transportation and LTFRB launched a POV modernization program in Cagayan de Oro City.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Philippines is not withdrawing its membership from the United Nations Human Rights Council over the adopted resolution on the country's human rights situation. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin Jr. on Monday clarified that they are not severing ties with the UNHRC or any country. Locsin insists the Council's vote is a small and harmless matter and that they are staying in UNHRC as a pedagogical duty. Although Locsin scored the resolution and firmly stated that Manila would not tolerate any form of disrespect, he said the government will continue to work with the body. He cited that the Philippines must remain true to the cause of human rights. Meanwhile, Locsin stated that the UN text is not the sum total of the Philippines' relations with Iceland, the resolution's proponent. Locsin's view is shared by French Ambassador Nicolas Gailly, who on Sunday said the text is not the alpha and omega of international relations. President Rodrigo Duterte is reported to be personally seriously considering cutting ties with Iceland after it sponsored a resolution to look into the human rights situation in the country. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said Duterte told him that he was contemplating on cutting ties with the Nordic island country. Panelo said the UNHRC resolution is bereft of the gruesome realities of the drug menace in the country. He said that the Iceland-sponsored resolution was based on false information and only meant to embarrass the Philippines before the international community. Moreover, he stressed that the resolution smacks of politicking designed to force the Philippines to be subservient to the West, which is believed to be scornful of the country's war on drugs. He, however, said the government would consider all factors in deciding whether to proceed with cutting ties with Iceland for good. President Rodrigo Duterte has signed several laws improving the well-being of overseas Filipino workers and students. He also pushed for higher penalties against sexual harassment. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
President Rodrigo Duterte has signed a law creating the Office for Social Welfare Attaché for Overseas Filipino Workers. Under the law, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, shall deploy social welfare attachés in countries with large concentration of OFWs. The social welfare attaché should have functions and duties such as managing cases of OFWs and other overseas Filipinos in distress needing psychosocial services. Also among its duties is to undertake surveys, establish a network with social welfare agencies, and monitor the resolution of problems and complaints of OFWs and their families. President Duterte also signed into law Republic Act 11313, or Safe Spaces Act, which will impose heftier penalties for gender-based sexual harassment. Among those considered as sexual harassment includes catcalling, wolf whistling, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist slurs, persistent uninvited comments or gestures on a person's appearance, cyberstalking, personal or online statement of sexual comments and suggestions, and other threats to personal space. The new law imposes penalties and fines from ranging 1,000 to 500,000 pesos, including prison terms ranging from 6 days to 6 months. Another law signed by President Duterte grants a 20% discount for students with valid IDs on all public utility vehicles. The Student Fare Discount Act, or RA 11314, seeks to encourage students, particularly the poor and underprivileged, to pursue quality education. Only Filipino students in elementary, secondary, tech-voc, or higher education institutions can avail of the discount privilege. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
In other news, Malacanang on Monday said President Rodrigo Duterte has considered all non-war options to resolve the West Philippine Sea dispute, and the best option is still through diplomatic negotiations. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said the president studied all the options and chose the smartest, least dangerous solution. He maintained that bilateral negotiations are meant to ensure the safety of the Filipinos. Panelo made this reaction to several options proposed by Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio. The court official proposed numerous options to enforce the 2016 arbitral ruling that nullified China's 9-dash line map that nearly covers the entire WPS or South China Sea. These include encouraging the freedom of navigation and overflight operations of selected countries in the contested seas, sending on patrol the Philippine Coast Guard's 10 new multi-role response vessels, and filing an extended continental shelf claim in the West Philippine Sea. The Dangerous Drugs Board expresses dismay over the resolution of the United Nations Human Rights Council to investigate the country's human rights situation over the government's war on drugs. More on this and other news around the metro from Janice Cabe.
The Dangerous Drugs Board expressed dismay over the United Nations Human Rights Council's decision to allow the preliminary investigation into the human rights situation in the country. In a statement, the DDB decried the resolution issued by Iceland, saying it did not consider the government's side on issues such as killings. It said the resolution dismissed the government's achievements in fighting the drug menace, including the rehabilitation of millions of drug dependents. Meanwhile, the PNP dismissed the report of the so-called Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, or ACLED, saying the Philippines is the fourth most dangerous country in the world due to its campaign against illegal drugs. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde challenged ACLED to reveal where they based their report and look at the country's situation for themselves. He said the report runs counter to the HSBC Expats annual survey, saying the country is the 24th best place to live and work, which proves the country's good peace and order situation. In other news, the Philippines expects to improve diplomatic ties with Russia with the visit of BRP Davao del Sur to Vladivostok. The Philippine Navy held a send-off ceremony on Monday for the 300 members at the Manila South Harbor. BRP Davao del Sur is participating in the naval parade during the Russian Day celebration from July 24 to 29. Its crew will also visit Russian naval facilities and exchange knowledge and experience with their Russian counterparts. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cabe.
Still to come, IP leaders ask for respect as militants protest their campaign against the abuses of the CPP and PA. The Department of Health officially declares a dengue outbreak in Western Visayas. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
For those who are into for those who are
You're here to spread lies. You're here to spread lies about all the organizations. Ang sinasabi po namin dito, yung narrative namin, ito po yung katotohanan na nangyayari sa aming ancestral domain. Kami po yung naninirahan sa ancestral domain at hindi yung mga taong sumisigaw sa amin na stop telling lies because we are not telling lies. I am a victim of the communist terrorist. Hindi nyo naranasan na mamatayan ng ama dahil pinatay ng NPA ng komunista. Pasensya sir, umiiyak ako dahil nagagalit ako dahil biktima kaming lahat. Tapos kami pa ang sinasabihan na nagsasalita ng kasinungalingan. Ano ba klaseng Pilipino sila? Kung Pilipino sila, bakit ganyan sila sa amin? Kami ang biktima. Bakit hindi ko pakinggan? Ang sinasabi namin dito katotohanan. Hindi yung sumisigaw kami ng kung ano-ano na hindi namin alam kung anong sinisigaw namin. Kung mismo ang gobyerno, sir, ang naka-violate ng aming karapatan, well, kami mismo ang magrarally against government. Pero hindi yun ang katotohanan. Hindi kami minimilitarize ng army. Isa pa akong tribal chieftain. Lahat po ng pumapasok, kahit isang sundalo, kahit operasyon ng sundalo, sir, nakikipag-coordinate nag-coordinate sila sa akin dahil alam nila ang IPRA, alam nila ang batas ng katutubo. Hindi totoo yung sinasabi nila. Napakasakit. Alam mo, sir, bakit ako umiyak? Napakasakit, alam mo. Hindi madali yung ginagawa namin na sabihin ang katotohanan dahil masasaktan sila. Ang mga buhay namin, ang pamilya namin sa Mindanao, may mga threats na sila natatanggap at sinasabi pa nila na binabayaran kami ng Duterte administration. Wala pong piso, walang milyon ang halaga ng buhay namin. Hindi namin kailangan i-risk ang buhay namin para sa 1 milyon o anong katumbas ng pera. Ang nire-risk po namin dito ang future generation ng aming tribo na gusto naming protektahan, na gusto naming for the next 100 years nandun pa yung tribo namin, nandun pa yung kultura namin, nandun pa yung lupang ninuno namin. Hindi ko maintindihan, ganito pala mayroon palang Pilipino na ganun, na nagsasabi ka lang ng totoo, sinasabihan ka ng sinungaling, nagsasalita ka. Ganyan ba sila pinalaki ng mga magulang nila? Well, kami mga tribo, hindi kami pinalaki ng ganyan. Hindi po kami dito pumunta para makipag-away. Nandito po kami dahil tama na po yung buhay na ibinuwis namin. Tama na yung dugo na nubalak sa aming ancestral domain. Ako, sir, 28 years old. Pero anong ginagawa ko? Pwede ako magtrabaho, pero nandito ako dahil mahal ko ang tribo ko. Mahal ko yung papa ko na pinatay nila na walang kasalanan. Mahal ko ang tribo namin. Sana po, bilang mga Pilipino na nandito pa ngayon nakikinig sa amin, tulungan nyo kami parating sa kanila kung ano ang katotohanan. Dahil ilan lang po ang nagsasabi ng katotohanan. Hindi ko alam anong basihan nila. Bakit kami sabihan na stop telling the lies? Punta kayo sa aming ancestral domain. Punta kayo doon. Sumama kayo. Bukas kung kailan ka mag-uwi, punta kayo doon. Sinasabi niya kanina na nakapunta na siya ng Mindanao. Nakapunta ka na. Pero kami, ilang years na kami nakatira doon. Kami yung walang tulog dahil sa peace and order situation. Dahil sa presensya ng komunistang, teroristang ito.
Tribal leaders touring in the U.S. have called on militants to respect their opinions and listen to their side. The indigenous peoples' leaders reacted to the disruption of their forum at the Philippine Consulate General Office in San Francisco, California on July 10. A PhilAm member of the militant Bayan USA, along with several others, managed to enter the venue and started to call them liars. IP leader Datu Jake Lanes said, while the militants have spread their negative narrative for the longest time, the IPs have their own opinions, which is why they came to the U.S. He urged not to be called paramilitary because it is other IPs' rights to enlist in the military civilian arm or CAFGU. He maintained that the IPs do not benefit from the funds that the militants solicit through channels such as the Salugpungan. He also urged the communist movement to stop their war in the tribal lands. Lanes, along with 7 other indigenous people leaders, have broken their silence on the deception and lies of the Communist Party of the Philippines and its armed wing, the New People's Army, or NPA. The Department of Health, or DOH, through the Center for Health Development in Region 6 on Monday, declared a dengue outbreak in Western Visayas. The declaration covers the whole region except for Negros Occidental, which will be placed on alert status. Iloilo, Capiz, Aklan, and Guimaras already declared an outbreak, while Antique expanded its state of calamity to ill effects of dengue from just the El Nino phenomenon. DOH regional data showed that from January to July 6, 2019, Western Visayas had over 15,000 cases, resulting to 87 deaths. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III has commended DOH-6 and local officials for their timely interventions against the outbreak. Duque committed 18,000 NS1 dengue test kits to be delivered to Western Visayas as soon as possible. Personnel of rural health units will be deployed at hospitals to augment the latter's workforce. Meantime, Regional Director Marlene Convocar appealed to the public to do their share of curbing dengue cases. Some economists have discounted a negative impact on the Philippines because of the slower second quarter growth of the Chinese economy this 2019. The world's second largest economy posted a nearly 30-year low of 6.2% GDP from 6.4% in the previous quarter. Regina Capital Managing Director Luis Limlingan said that the Chinese economy's output from April to June this year is within market expectations. He, however, pointed out that still it raises concerns long-term of a slowdown. Union Bank Chief Economist Ruben Carlo Asuncion meanwhile said he does not see any direct and significant impact on the Philippines economy of this latest growth report from China. He cited internal conditions such as government spending as a stronger driver of the Philippine GDP growth this year. Michael Ricafort, RCBC Economics and Industry Research Division head, said China's slower output could lead to slower growth in Philippine exports and trade, which could in turn slow down economic growth. This may result in another cut in the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas' new key policy rates to help boost domestic growth. The Philippine National Police in Cebu cited the partnership between various stakeholders and the police in its peace and development campaign. Lieutenant General Archie Francisco Gamboa, Deputy Chief for Operations, commended the police community relations for its contribution in bringing the government closer to the people. In his message during the 24th PCR Month awarding ceremony on Monday, he said the government has been able to enhance the propaganda against terrorist groups through the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. He said the PNP needs the support of the people and the partnership with government agencies to reach those who are vulnerable to insurgency. PRO7 Regional Director Dibold Sinas handed over plaques of appreciation to government agencies such as the Office of the Presidential Assistant for the Visayas, Naval Forces Central, the Philippine Army, Department of Health, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Region 7, and the Philippine Coast Guard Central Visayas District, among others. He also pinned medals to 7 police officials and 2 police non-commissioned officers. 2 cops are killed by suspected communist rebels in Camarines Sur. Meanwhile, the local government of Zamboanga del Sur orders the closure of a sports academy in the province. More on these and other news from the provinces from Miguel Hill.
2 policemen were killed in a clash with suspected New People's Army rebels early Sunday morning in Bato Town in Camarines Sur. Police Regional Office 5 spokesperson Major Maria Luisa Calubakib said both died while being rushed to a hospital. 2 platoons of policemen were on intelligence operation when they engaged an 18-man NPA group. Calubakib said police forces are still pursuing the rebels as of press time. In Pangasinan, some 100 out-of-school youth and students are undergoing training in a demo farm at Barangay Hermosa as members of the Millennial Farmers Association of Bayambang. Angelica Andrea Garcia, focal person on good governance, said the project aims to awaken interest of young people in agriculture. She said the LGU also wants to teach young people how to plant and provide them other sources of income or livelihood. The LGU has also requested the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources for fish cages to make way for aquaculture. In Zamboanga del Sur, the provincial government has shut down the Zamboanga del Sur Sports Academy due to lack of legal basis in its operation. Governor Victor Yu said there is a need to enact an ordinance by the Sangguniang Panlalawigan to support ZSSA's operations since it entails expenses that have become unjustifiable, such as the hiring of teachers. He, however, promised the parents of the 181 student athletes affected by the order to provide them with monthly allowance to continue their studies. ZSSA was established in 2012 to produce quality athletes to represent the province in national competitions. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
Up next, the DOH reiterates its warning against smoking e-cigarettes. The Department of Transportation and LTFRB launches a PUV modernization program in Cagayan de Oro City. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Nitong July 5, 2019, ipinahayag ni Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar ang pagbubukas ng Metro Manila Skyway Stage 3 Plaza Dilaw Ramp na makukumpleto na sa buwang kasalukuyan.
Ito po yung Skyway Stage 3. I-announce ko lang po that in 2 weeks, i-open po namin yung Plaza Dilaw exit. So from here, less than 4 kilometers. So magkakaroon po tayo ng additional 4 kilometers, additional usable highway, expressway.
Tiniyak din ng kalihim na ang proyektong magkokonekta sa NLEX at SLEX ay magiging substantially completed ngayong taon.
At the same time, i-announce ko rin po na at this moment, yung substructure, halos out of 494 substructure works, 25 na lang ang natitira.
Ang iba pang bahagi ayon kay Secretary Villar ay pinabibilis na rin ang pagkukumpleto para matiyak na ang main line ng Skyway mula Buendia hanggang Balintawak ay matatapos sa itinakdang petsa sa first quarter ng 2020. Ayon kay Secretary Villar, nasolusyonan na rin at natapos na ang mga challenging areas ng proyekto gaya ng right-of-way, kaya kumpiyansa siyang matatapos ito sa takdang panahon. Mararamdaman na rin ng ating mga motorista ang ginhawa dulot ng proyektong ito.
Now, ano po ang magiging effect ng Skyway pag natapos na po siya? Ang travel time from Makati to Balintawak, kung dati po, siguro pwede umabot ng 2 oras ang biyahe. Pag natapos po itong Skyway, it's 18.68 kilometers long. So, baka 15 to 20 minutes na lang ang biyahe. So, napakalaking bagay at lalo na para sa decongestion ng EDSA. We're projecting as much as 100,000 cars a day ang mababawasan, ang gagamit po dito sa Skyway. So, ang laking ginawa po.
The Department of Health and the Food and Drug Administration on Monday warned the public anew against the adverse effects on health and safety of using e-cigarettes or vapes. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said the DOH and the FDA maintains that a series of long-term studies are required to conclude that e-cigarettes are less harmful than conventional smoking. Duque added that there is barely sufficient evidence-based research to prove the effectiveness of e-cigarettes in helping people stop smoking. The DOH stressed that the composite contents of and emissions from these devices are not completely without harm, as they use chemicals such as nicotine, ultrafine particles, carcinogens, heavy metals, and volatile organic compounds. The DOH and FDA also strongly appeal to parents, teachers, and health workers to educate children and adolescents about the health risks of e-cigarettes. In our foreign news, an institute jointly set up by India and Japan to boost skilled manpower for manufacturing, particularly automobile and auto components, has called for admissions. The Japan-India Institute for Manufacturing, located in Delhi's neighboring town of Gurugram, opened admissions for its first batch of students, according to an official statement on Monday. The institute is a joint initiative between the state government of Haryana and largest car maker Maruti Suzuki to enhance skill levels among students. JIM is one of the model industrial training institutes run by Maruti Suzuki to contribute to the Indian government's Skill India initiative. A memorandum of cooperation was signed between Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry and India's Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship in 2016 to train 30,000 youth in India over 10 years. In sports, two undefeated boxers tasted defeat for the first time in separate bouts over the weekend. Filipino lightweight campaigner Roldan the Cobra Aldea knocked out undefeated Mikhail Alexiev of Russia at the RCC Boxing Academy in Ekaterinburg, Russia on Saturday, July 13. The 25-year-old southpaw from Negros Occidental stopped his Russian opponent in the 8th of their 10-round fight to improve his ring record to 14 wins, 7 losses, and 1 win by knockout. On the other hand, Filipino Dave the Hunter Peñalosa tasted his first defeat in 16 fights after a unanimous decision loss to South African Lebato Lights Out Dlamini in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on Friday, July 22nd. Dlamini improved his ring record to 13 wins and 1 loss and bagged the vacant WBC International Featherweight title. The Peñalosa-Dlamini tiff was one of the undercard matches of Amir Khan Billy Din title fight for the vacant WBC International Welterweight crown. Khan of United Kingdom stopped Din of Australia via a technical knockout in the 4th round. The PUV modernization program kicks off in northern Mindanao with the launching of new transport routes in Cagayan de Oro City. The program is in line with the government's aim to provide safe and comfortable modern transport for all. More on this from Apipa Bagumbarad.
Commuters in northern Mindanao have something to look forward to as new routes were launched in Cagayan de Oro City as part of the government's Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program. Department of Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade and Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board Chairman Martin Delgrad III lead the launching of the program, which aims to make public transport safe and comfortable for commuters and drivers alike. 73 PUV units that are compliant with the Omnibus Franchising Guidelines will be plying the new routes, which were awarded to Oro Transport Service Cooperative, Northern Bukidnon Transport, Rural Transit, Donsal, and Magnum Express.
Dako kami pasalamat po sa LTFRB nga nagbuhat sa maong okasyon karon ka nianing modernization. Pero kami wala pa gid mi sa amo kooperatiba, wala pa mi nagkuan kay bago pa mi na-aprobahan. Nagplano gid kami nga magbuhat, magpalit o modernization nga sakyanan. Munang ni gid mi kay karon para makakita mi sa mga sample sa maong modernization.
Tugadi, who inspected the units, was amazed with the support of the transport cooperatives in the region to the government's goal of modernizing PUVs.
I was so impressed with what I saw. I saw for the first time transport system, bus, double-decker aircon that will commute from Cagayan de Oro to Bukidnon. Wala pa ho maski sa Metro Manila ng ganyang double-decker na magkabiyahe ng ganyang kalayan. Aircon, Wi-Fi, all the amenities are there. Nakumpisa ho dito sa Cagayan de Oro yan. At pinakita sa akin, saludo ako sa mga operator. Nakita ko ho kanina sa Cagayan de Oro dyan, pagod man, masaya, bakat alam ko na ang Cagayan de Oro, lahat yung nandun, pati sa Bukidnon, may dumating. Sabi nila, ipolog nandito, nakikisa. Paparatingin ko sa Pangulo yan at sasabihin ko, Sir, yung pinuntahan ko, solid at nakikisa sila sa atin sa programang modernization ng public utility vehicles.
After the launching, Tugadi also inaugurated the Cagayan de Oro City Passenger Terminal building, which is considered as the biggest and modernized passenger terminal building in the country. For PNA Newsroom, Apipa Bagombaran, Philippine Information Agency.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, is advising the public to stay safe as Tropical Depression Falcon is expected to make landfall in Cagayan and bring heavy rains in most parts of the country on Wednesday. Residents in areas affected by Falcon are advised to monitor updates and coordinate with authorities. They are also advised to prepare individual go bags in case of preemptive evacuations. The NDRRMC Operations Center is placed on blue alert to monitor the effects of the weather disturbance. The Department of Social Welfare and Development said it had pre-positioned family food packs, emergency funds, and other items worth almost 1.99 billion pesos. Pag-asa said the combined effects of Falcon and the enhanced southwest monsoon will bring light to heavy monsoon rains. Meanwhile, let's check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. And here's another look at today's biggest stories.
The Philippines is not withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council despite its resolution to investigate human rights in the country. IP leaders ask for respect as militants protest their campaign against the abuses of the CPP-NPA. The Department of Health officially declares a dengue outbreak in Western Visayas. And the Department of Transportation and LTFRB launched a POV modernization program in Cagayan de Oro City.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.